You're watching Inside Utah Politics.
Time now to dig deeper into the midterm election with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have State Representative Brian King and State Senator Todd Weiler. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you.
Even taking a little break from your Twitter spat to join us this morning. Look at you guys go.
Hey, on Twitter we're enemies, but when we're in person, we're
You're
nice.
friendly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's kind of how social media tends to be, right?
Sadly.
You'll say things you would never say to each other face to face.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right, let's dig right into this. A huge race in Utah's 4th Congressional District. We're talking the balance of power potentially. This is one of 23 seats that the Democrats say we might be able to flip this thing. Brian, let's start off with you.
Well, I think that things are trending in the direction that Ben McAdams would like to see. I don't think the president has helped Republicans across the country, and the events of the last few weeks have sort of paint him in a light that I think many, many people in Utah and across the country are concerned about. So I think the numbers are going in the right direction. I don't know that I agree with one poll that I saw that said that McAdams was up by 6%. I don't think that's accurate. I think it's going to be much closer than that. And I think that anybody who is supporting Ben McAdams needs to feel that if anything they've got the deck against them a little bit on this one. But I think in the end he'll probably pull it out.
Senator Weiler, is this closer than you thought it would be?
No, I expect it to be close. Most polls before this last week have had me on top. I think she is going to eke out a win. Ben's a quality candidate. I know Ben. I've worked with Ben in the state senate. I've worked with Ben at a law firm. A little disappointed with his campaign. You know, he's been preparing his whole life to run for Congress, and all he's doing is running misleading ads saying that Mia loves breaking the law when she hasn't. And I think he could have run a more positive campaign about what he would like to do, what his vision is. But I don't think the negative advertising is going to work. I don't think he's going to win the race.
Let's talk about that, because both candidates would sit there and say, you know, these ads that are being run on both sides are attack ads and they're not accurate. Your thoughts from the Democratic standpoint?
I wish that when you had negative campaigning, people didn't respond as positively in the sense that the negative campaigners want them to respond. I wish that we had greater levels of punishment for candidates who run negative campaigns, because I agree that what we should be talking about is what these two candidates bring to the table in terms of what they'll accomplish back in Washington, D.C. if they're elected. And unfortunately, we have a greater response level by many voters, enough voters to make a difference in terms of running these ads in the first place to say that negative campaigning works.
You know, and he's running a radio ad right now saying that Mia Love always votes with Trump. And that's not true, and Utah knows that's not true.
Yeah, it's only 95% of the time.
She called him out this past week
on
the immigration issue. She called him out on she's called him out on several issues.
To say that Mia is running...
I didn't interrupt you, Brian. The point of the matter is Trump is at his most popular he's been since he's been president right now, this month. And I don't think a vote for Mia Love is a vote for Donald Trump. And I know that Mia Love's, you know, we've got that one, those Pelosi equals McAdams or vice versa billboards. But Ben McAdams would be working with Nancy Pelosi if he wins. And Mia Love would not be working in the White House if she wins. So I don't think it's a quid pro quo.
Okay, your turn.
Thank you. To say that one side is more negative than the other is absurd. I mean, Donald Trump has been as negative for himself and for all Republican candidates across this country as you can get. He's taken it to a new and different level. But what I think we're talking about here is, do Utahns want to see greater balance at the federal level? You've got Republican control of the White House. You've got current Republican control of both chambers of Congress. Are we going to have a check and a balance on this president or not? I think Utahns want to see that check and balance, and we need to see that check.
Utah has 4 votes in the House. If you take one of them and give them to Ben McAdams, he cancels out one of the other 3 votes, and we cut our power in half. We're less than 1% of the House right now, and you put one Democrat in there, and then we're less than 0.5%. And I don't think Utah wants to take a step back.
Is Ben McAdams a candidate that would vote against Republicans every time, though, and against the Utah delegation?
No, I think that he's above the partisan fray to a much greater degree than Mia is. I mean, Todd says that Mia doesn't always vote with the president. No, she votes with the president 95% of the time, literally. So, I mean, it's not, that's what the facts show. And I don't think Ben's going to vote against the president 95% of the time. I do think that he's going to try to bridge this gap. And we've seen this partisan gap exist to an even greater degree in Washington now than we've seen in the past.
And the statistic's deceptive. Donald Trump is not a member of Congress, so you're not voting with or against Trump on every single bill. And the fact of the matter is, I could show you Democrats are voting with Trump, if you use that tortured analysis 80 to 90% of the time, because a lot of bills that Congress do are renaming post offices and funding national parks and things like that. So it's not a vote. Not every vote in Congress is for or against Trump.
Okay, one last thought on that before I get on to the next topic.
Well, I think that what you'll see with having greater balance in Congress is less partisanship, in the sense of you'll at least see some counterweight to Donald Trump, and that's what I think we need. I mean, to hear a Republican talk about this, you can never have too many Republicans in Congress. Well, that's not a check and a balance on Donald Trump.
So you say you see Representative Love eking this out.
Yep.
Well, how do you see it playing out?
I think Ben will win by 52-48, 51-49, something like that.
All right, we will see how that turns out. Let's move to another interesting dynamic here in Utah politics, and that is having Mitt Romney at the top of the ticket. What are we going to see from the Romney effect in the 4th District specifically, because he had very popular numbers there in 2012?
So Mitt Romney is going to drive out a lot of Republicans. The mail-in, the vote by mail, we're going to see the highest voter turnout for a midterm election probably in a decade, because now you just have to fill it out at home. And a lot of Republicans are going to be excited for Mitt. A lot of people are upset that he lost in 2012, and they're going to want to see him in the Senate. And that's going to help those lower ballot races like Mia Love's.
Is that something Democrats need to look at and be concerned about, the potential turnout that he brings? I mean, he's running commercials, not even about the race, but getting people to vote.
Right. Well, and he's running commercials for Mia Love and for other Republicans who are running too.
And some of those are PAC commercials.
So I think that there's no question that having Mitt Romney on the ticket is going to help some Republicans to some degree here in Utah. I also think that it's overstated. This is not a close race based on what the polling says between Jenny Wilson and Mitt Romney. I'm a little disappointed that it's not closer, in the sense that I think Jenny Wilson is a really high quality candidate and should do great in the Senate. But the reality is nobody has much question in their own mind about who's going to win that race. Mitt Romney's going to win that race. And so I think that people coming out to vote for Mitt Romney is going to be less than what you would have if it was a tight race. There'll be some, but I think the effect of the propositions will be even greater in drawing people on the left side of the spectrum to the polls.
Let's talk about that, the propositions. Do you agree with that analysis, that it's going to draw more people on the left side?
I think that Proposition 2 had that potential. I think with the compromise that was announced a month ago, I think a lot of that has fizzled, and people know that medical marijuana is coming to Utah in a responsible way, whether Proposition passes or fails. So I think that I was worried about that as a Republican 2 months ago. I'm a lot less worried about it today.
There's a narrative out there, though, that people are saying don't trust the legislature to go through with this compromise. So will Prop 2 supporters still stay strong in getting out and voting?
Boy, I sure hope so. I think that's very important. I think that how that Proposition 2 vote goes will have an impact on the details of what we end up with. Todd talks about a compromise. There's a framework of a deal, yes.
The bill's available on the website.
And it'll be changed substantially in terms of what we end up passing in a special session or in the regular session whenever we pass it. What you see on the website is not the final product. What you end up as the final product is going to depend largely on what Prop 2 vote does. Is it going to go up or down? Okay. And I think it's very important for people who want to see access to medical marijuana in Utah.
Any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, don't make the mistake that only Democrats are going to come out to vote for Prop 2 or vote against it, because a lot of Republicans want medical marijuana in a responsible approach. I pulled this in my district 3 years ago, and it was over 65% support, and I represent a very Republican bountiful. And so I don't think that Prop 2 means that Ben McAdams wins.
But I do wonder if the Republican side that you're talking about, that yes does want Prop 2, maybe they're the ones that feel more comfortable with the compromise and saying, all right, it'll be taken care of. Either way.
Maybe, but I don't think that Utah voters are one issue driven. I don't think they're not going to vote because of the compromise.
Okay, real quick. We have about 30 seconds left. National balance of power. I already mentioned the 23 seats that Democrats need to flip in the House, 2 in the Senate. Do you see either of those chambers flipping for the Democrats?
I think the Democrats have given up on the Senate. The Senate's going to stay Republican. In fact, I think the Republicans will pick up seats. I do expect, I'll be surprised if Republicans hold on to the House. And, you know, I was surprised when Trump won, so bigger surprises have happened, but I do expect the Democrats will take the House.
About 15 seconds for your thoughts on that.
I don't think there's much question that the House goes to the Democrats. The question will be how big a margin. There is a lot of question about whether the Senate stays in Republican hands. I'll go out on a limb for purposes of my discussions with Todd and say the Republicans will lose the Senate and the House.
No.
All right.
Not going to happen.
We will end it there. Pick these guys up on Twitter if you want to continue this conversation. Always great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break.